You follow a lonely road toward a sky that seems impossibly high, a sky so vast and weightless it feels as if it might swallow every thought you bring with you. The world grows quieter with every mile, as though sound itself is stepping aside, giving you room to listen to something older, deeper, and far more patient than human noise. A faint tremor runs under the pavement, the kind that hints at deep forces moving far below, reminding you that this land is shaped not just by time, but by restless power still shifting in the dark. The air smells untouched, like the first morning of the world, carrying the kind of crisp clarity that makes you feel both profoundly small and strangely privileged to breathe it. Hills rise almost shyly at first, then boldly as you approach, as if they have been waiting for the right moment to reveal their true scale and ancient silhouettes. Their shapes look familiar until they suddenly don't, shifting subtly in the light as though they are rearranging themselves just beyond the edge of understanding. Something about them feels alive, watchful, knowing, and you get the uncanny sense that the land is observing you with the same curiosity you bring to it. The light sharpens, slicing across the land in long, golden lines that stretch like pathways drawn by the sun itself, guiding you towards something unnamed. You feel a distant heat, the kind that speaks of volcanic memories and ancient fire, a warmth that rises from the earth like a whispered reminder of what once roared beneath it. The wind carries fragments of legends you've never heard but somehow recognize, stories that cling to the air as if they've been told here for thousands of years and are waiting to be told again. Everything around you feels on the brink of revealing something important, as though one more step, one more breath, will tip the world into sudden clarity. The wilderness grows wilder, the silence grows heavier, and even your heartbeat seems to soften as if trying not to disturb whatever dwells here. Then the truth hits you all at once as the landscape opens wide, stretching into an expanse so grand and untouched that it feels like the world is reintroducing itself. You're standing in Wyoming, where every mile holds a secret waiting patiently for the right traveler to uncover it. This is Wonder of Wyoming, hidden valleys, dangerous paths, and legends that never die. Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. Some places make you feel as if the world stops for a moment just to watch you breathe. And Yellowstone National Park is one of those rare landscapes where reality feels thin, the ordinary dissolves, and something ancient seems to stir beneath your feet, as though the earth itself is waking up to greet you. Tucked in the northwest corner of Wyoming, this massive volcanic plateau stretches across rugged lands that constantly shift and whisper, reminding travelers with every creak, rumble, and wisp of steam that the earth here is still alive, restless, and shaping itself in real time. Its origin story reaches back to violent eruptions that reshaped an entire region, carving out valleys, ridges, and basins with explosive force, leaving behind a terrain so dramatic and surreal, it looks more like a collection of divine sculptures than the product of raw geology. The climate changes quickly enough to catch newcomers off guard, with mornings chilled by mountain air that feels sharpened by ice, afternoons warmed by intense high-altitude sunlight that pierces the sky like a blade, and evenings wrapped in drifting mist that moves with an eerie, almost conscious grace. Across Yellowstone's sweeping meadows, enormous herds of bison move in dark, thunder-like waves, their heavy bodies rolling across the horizon as though reenacting ancient migrations from prehistoric ages when humans had yet to leave their first footprints here. Dense pine forests cloak the slopes, swallowing the daylight until only thin slivers of gold break through, revealing claw marks from grizzlies etched deep into tree trunks like territorial warnings carved by giants. Steam rises from the ground in ghost-like ribbons, drifting over boiling pools that pulse with impossible colors, turquoise, neon green, molten orange, as though the earth were displaying its own hidden palette. On quieter days, the ground vibrates with a soft, almost musical hum, as if Yellowstone is whispering an ancient lullaby meant only for those patient enough to feel it. Geyser fields stretch outward like living mosaics, each bubble and hiss forming a rhythm that feels strangely conversational, as though the land itself is trying to speak. Ravens circle high above the caldera, their dark wings slicing through sulfur-scented air, like silent omens guarding secrets far older than humanity. Travelers often pause mid-step, sensing an inexplicable shift in the atmosphere, an invisible gaze, a silent presence, something watching from beneath the boiling earth. At night, when the stars spill across the sky in bright, unbroken rivers, the entire landscape glows faintly, illuminated by heat rising from unseen chambers far below. Wanderers report hearing faint echoes in the valleys, distant calls or deep rumbles, sounds that might be wind or might be something far more primal. The mud pots churn like cauldrons from forgotten folklore, their thick, bubbling surfaces gurgling with a slow, deliberate intensity that feels almost alive. In the backcountry, where trails fade into silence, you can sense layers of time stacked upon one another, as if every stone remembers countless eras passing overhead. Even the waterfalls seem to roar with purpose, their thundering cascades vibrating through your bones like a reminder of the raw power shaping this land. Travelers who camp near the geyser basins say the night brings strange colors, flashes of blue and red drifting across the steam, too vivid to be imagination. The scent of pine mixes with the sharp tang of minerals, creating an atmosphere so intoxicating it anchors itself permanently in memory. Elk sometimes emerge from the forests with a regal, almost mythical presence, standing motionless in the mist as if guarding the entrance to another realm. The wind carries warmth and cold in erratic bursts, as though the mountain spirits are testing each traveler's resolve before allowing them deeper into the wild. Pools of obsidian black water reflect the sky so perfectly that looking into them feels like staring through a portal to another universe. And in those rare still moments, when the rumbling quiets, the steam settles, and the horizon holds its breath, Yellowstone feels less like a place and more like a living, breathing entity deciding how much of itself it wants to reveal. Old Faithful erupts with clockwork precision, sending boiling water skyward in a towering burst that feels like the Earth's heartbeat thundering through the open air. Beneath everything lies a supervolcano so immense and powerful that even seasoned scientists speak of it with reverence and caution, as though describing a sleeping titan beneath a thin crust of land. According to Native American legends, these lands are pathways for ancestral spirits, And each gust of wind carries an old voice, a story, or a warning if you're quiet enough to truly listen. Some visitors swear they've seen pale shapes drifting near hot springs at dusk, as if the steam were forming momentary silhouettes, ghost-like echoes of lives and memories that never fully left these mountains. The eerie stories continue with reports of wolves whose eyes glow strangely bright beneath moonlight, appearing at the edge of the forest and vanishing again like creatures woven from myth rather than flesh. Water crashes fiercely into Yellowstone's deep canyons, creating a constant roar that sounds like the earth tearing itself open, a reminder that this landscape is still in the process of becoming. The Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone burns with shades of gold and amber so intense that the cliffs look as if sunlight has been permanently fused into the stone. The hydrothermal pools shimmer with blues, greens, oranges, and reds so vivid and unnatural that filmmakers and photographers often leave convinced they found a portal to another world. Wildlife roams with a confidence that reminds travelers they are merely guests in a kingdom ruled by instinct, ancient rhythms, and laws far older than any map or road. Some hikers swear that early morning fog reveals shapes too tall and slow-moving to be bison, sparking whispers about ghostly mammoths wandering through time, refusing to let their species fully disappear. Even if the myths remain unproven, they add a layer of quiet enchantment, making Yellowstone feel like a place where the boundaries between past and present blur in ways few landscapes allow. The trails, particularly in Hayden and Lamar valleys, bring a thrilling sense of danger and wonder, as though each bend might reveal a hidden predator, a roaring waterfall, or a sight so surreal it shifts your entire understanding of the natural world. Mammoth hot springs cascades down the mountainside like terraces sculpted from snow and bleached bone, their mineral formations glowing in the sun like frozen waterfalls. Yellowstone Lake stretches so wide and silent that it feels like standing at the edge of an inland ocean, its surface hiding volcanic mysteries in the dark water below. Every ridge, every meadow, and every gust of sulfur-scented steam reminds you that Yellowstone is alive, ancient, powerful, and deeply aware of your presence in a way that's both humbling and electrifying. One essential travel tip: Arrive before sunrise if you want to experience wildlife and geyser basins at their most intimate, least crowded, and most otherworldly, when the morning light turns steam into golden smoke. It's this union of beauty, danger, mystery, and raw earthbound energy that makes Yellowstone feel like a living legend. Something far greater than a simple national park, and perhaps older than the human world itself. Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming. There are mountains that simply stand, unmoving and indifferent. And then there are mountains that seem to rise with intention, as if pulled upward by some ancient will. And the Grand Tetons belong entirely to this second kind, towering with a presence that feels almost deliberate. Located in northwestern Wyoming, this park stretches along a jagged skyline where the peaks slice sharply into the sky like the teeth of a colossal stone creature frozen mid-roar, creating a silhouette you never quite forget. The geological story of the Tetons begins with powerful fault movements that thrust the mountains upward while the valley floor sank dramatically, creating an abrupt vertical rise so stark and clean that it remains unmatched anywhere else in the Rockies. The climate shifts dramatically here, with cold alpine air rushing down the peaks at sunrise like a chilled breath from the heavens, and warm valley winds sweeping back upward by noon, colliding in ways that change the mood of the landscape in minutes. Sometimes a sudden gust sweeps across the ridge with such force that it feels like the mountains are exhaling, reminding you just how alive this landscape truly is. At twilight, shadows crawl across the peaks in long, deliberate strokes, giving the Tetons an otherworldly silhouette that looks almost sentient. Travelers often stop mid-hike, struck by an uncanny feeling that the mountains are watching, silent, ancient, evaluating every step as if deciding whether to let them pass. In early autumn, a thin veil of frost settles on the valley floor overnight, sparkling at sunrise like fragments of shattered starlight scattered across the grass. Thunderstorms roll through the Tetons with theatrical intensity, lightning forking across the granite walls as though the sky were etching glowing scars into the stone. There are moments when the wind carries the scent of pine, snow, and wild sage all at once, a blend so clean and sharp it feels like breathing in the memory of the earth. On rare nights when the moon hangs low, the peaks blaze silver, glowing so brightly that the mountains seem carved from cold fire instead of rock. Coyotes sometimes appear along the tree line, their silhouettes still and listening, before releasing eerie calls that echo across the valley like unanswered questions. In the high alpine zones, silence becomes so complete that you can hear the soft crack of glaciers shifting, ancient ice adjusting its weight with a sound like distant bones moving. And every so often, a lone hawk circles far above the snowfields, drifting without a single wing beat, as if suspended in a world where gravity obeys different rules. Meadows below the mountains glow gold with wildflowers in summer, turning every mile of trail into a quiet celebration of color that feels like nature's own whispered festival. Moose wander the Willow Flats with an authority that reminds travelers they are crossing lands ruled by wildlife, not humans, moving slowly and confidently as if they own the rhythm of the valley. Elk gather in large herds across Jackson Hole, their echoing bugles rolling through the crisp morning air like the soundtrack of a forgotten era where the wild held the world in its hands. Black bears roam the forests near Signal Mountain, appearing without sound along hiking trails like silent guardians of the towering pines, their presence both thrilling and humbling. The lakes, Jenny, Lee, and Jackson, lie perfectly still at dawn, reflecting the jagged peaks with such flawless clarity that the world seems doubled, as if the surface of the water were a doorway to an identical mountain realm. It's said that on certain foggy mornings, the reflection looks even sharper than the real mountains themselves, as if the lake holds a version of the Tetons more perfect, more patient, and more eternal than the stone rising above it. Local stories tell of strange lights drifting across the valley at night, and though rangers casually dismiss them as atmospheric tricks, seasoned hikers swear the lights move with intention, pausing and gliding as though guided by unseen hands. Some visitors claim they've heard distant drums echoing from Cascade Canyon, rhythmic and steady, even when the trail is completely empty, leaving them wondering who or what is playing. The native tribes believed the Tetons were a meeting ground for spirits, and many travelers say the silence here carries an unusual weight, as if something unseen is listening closely to every step you take. Climbing routes across the Grand Teton draw adventurers from around the world, especially those seeking the thrill of standing atop a 13,000-foot spine of granite that feels as though it pierces not just the clouds, but time itself. The catwalk section of the climb is legendary, a narrow ledge so exposed it feels suspended between sky and emptiness, testing not just balance, but courage. Hikers exploring hidden falls often talk about the sudden drop in temperature right before reaching the powerful cascade, as if the waterfall were pulling cool air toward itself in preparation for its roar. The Snake River winds along the base of the mountains like a silver ribbon laid gently across the land, offering views so cinematic that photographers rise long before dawn just to catch its first shimmer of light. Bald eagles soar above the river, their wings casting slow-moving shadows that glide elegantly across the open water like passing spirits. At sunset, the Tetons blaze in shades of rose, gold, and deep violet, transforming the entire skyline into a cathedral of color that feels sacred even to those who do not believe in sacred things. Wildlife becomes bold in the evening hours, stepping quietly into meadows the moment the light softens, as if dusk grants them permission to reclaim the land. Campsites beneath the stars offer nights so still and quiet that you can hear distant avalanches echo through the canyons like muffled thunder rolling through stone. Many travelers say the park feels both peaceful and intimidating at the same time, like standing inside a myth that hasn't fully revealed its story, but invites you to listen anyway. For the best experience, here's a pro tip. Visit the overlooks just before dawn, when the Tetons glow with a soft blue light so delicate and fleeting that it exists only in the earliest breath of morning. Every trail, lake, ridge, and shadow here feels like a chapter from a legend carved directly into stone, waiting for you to walk through it at your own pace. And once you witness the Tetons in their morning light, the mountains stay with you long after you've left Wyoming behind, echoing in memory like a promise the land whispered only to you. Devil's Tower National Monument, Wyoming. You don't just see Devil's Tower, you confront it, because the moment it appears on the horizon, it rises out of Wyoming's plains like an enormous stone fortress, declaring its dominance, commanding your attention as if the entire landscape has been waiting to reveal this singular monument. Standing 867 feet above its base, the tower looks like a massive tree stump carved by a giant's hand, its sheer sides rising straight into the sky, framed by open prairies and rolling ridges that seem to bow toward its presence. Formed from cooling magma that cracked into towering columns millions of years ago, the monument stands as one of the most iconic geologic formations in the American West, a structure shaped by Earth's deepest forces and preserved as if time itself were guarding it. Summers are warm and dry here, with sharp sunlight casting dramatic shadows down each vertical groove, highlighting every line, every crease, every ancient fracture etched into the stone. At certain angles, the tower seems to bend the horizon around itself, as if the very shape of the world is forced to acknowledge its authority. Travelers often say they feel a faint vibration in the ground near its base, a subtle tremor that feels less like geology and more like a heartbeat buried beneath the stone. On rare misty mornings, a thin veil of fog wraps around the columns and makes Devil's Tower look like it's slowly rising from the earth all over again. Ravens circle the summit in wide, deliberate arcs, their dark wings slicing through the sky as if guarding secrets carved into the rock. And sometimes, when the wind shifts just right, you can hear a soft whistling between the columns that sounds eerily like a distant, ancient song. Winters are harsh and windy, frosting the tower in ice and turning it into a cold, silent sentinel that seems to watch over the snow-covered plains with a patient and unblinking gaze. Pronghorn graze across the fields, moving with quick, delicate strides that contrast sharply with the tower's immovable, monolithic presence, like fleeting sparks darting around a colossal anvil. Bald eagles frequently perch on the tallest pines near the base, scanning the landscape with unwavering focus, as though participating in the tower's silent guardianship over the valley. The native tribes who lived here long before settlers described the tower as a powerful spiritual place, a site where earth and sky meet, and where the physical world brushes up against the realm of the sacred. Their story of the giant bear clawing its way up the stone gives the tower a mythical dimension that visitors rarely forget, transforming it from a geological wonder into a living legend passed down through generations. The massive vertical cracks do resemble claw marks, running perfectly straight from top to bottom, giving the impression that some unimaginable creature once carved its power into the rock. Climbers love Devil's Tower for those very cracks, which form natural routes that challenge even seasoned adventurers seeking to trace the monument's ancient lines with their own hands and feet. Some say that once you're halfway up, the wind sounds different, sharper, more focused, as though the tower funnels it deliberately, creating a voice that speaks only to those who dare ascend. From the summit, the entire prairie stretches to the horizon like a vast rolling ocean of grass, its patterns shifting with every breeze and making you feel as if you're standing on an island rising from a living sea. The top is surprisingly calm, almost peaceful, as if the energy of the climb dissolves the moment you stand above it all, leaving only quiet air and a sense of awe that settles deep into your bones. Hikers around the base pass through thick pine forests, open fields, and scattered boulder piles that feel like the leftover debris of ancient battles fought between land and sky. During storms, lightning cracks so close to the tower that it looks like the monument is drawing electricity toward itself, turning each strike into a dramatic display of power that lights up the valley. Sunset transforms the columns into deep shades of red, gold, and purple, turning the tower into a glowing beacon across the plains that looks both inviting and untouchably distant. Nightfall brings a quiet so intense you can hear the wind brushing against the columns like distant footsteps, soft but unmistakable, as if something unseen is circling the monument. Coyotes howl across the valley, their calls echoing off the stone in strange, wavering patterns that make the entire landscape feel alive with sound and mystery. Local ranchers sometimes claim the tower creates its own winds, swirling in unpredictable circles that seem to follow the shape of the formation itself. Whether true or not, standing at its base during a sudden gust makes the idea feel believable, as if the tower is exhaling through the trees and grass. The tower trail offers the best full-circle view, wrapping around the monument and revealing angles, shadows, and textures that most tourists never realize exist. If you want the best overall experience, the insider tip is simple. Visit during late afternoon when the sun sinks behind the columns and turns the entire landscape gold, giving the tower a glow that looks almost supernatural. The longer you stay, the more Devil's Tower feels like the anchor of the entire region, a central pillar around which the plains, forests, and wildlife quietly revolve. And long after you've left, its silhouette will remain etched in your mind like a memory carved straight from stone, permanent, powerful, and impossible to forget. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Jackson Hole is one of those valleys that captures you instantly, not with noise or drama, but with a quiet, breathtaking beauty that seeps into your senses, wrapping the entire landscape in a cinematic calm that feels almost too perfect to be real. The Tetons rise so sharply behind it that the whole scene looks like a painting pulled from a dream, with jagged peaks towering upward, as if they were carved specifically to steal your breath. Shaped over thousands of years by ancient glaciers, the valley stretches out in wide meadows, shimmering rivers, and gentle rolling hills that form a striking contrast to the fierce, vertical skyline behind them. Early mornings fill the air with soft blue light, casting long, delicate shadows across dew-covered grass that sparkles like scattered crystals. Elk appear like drifting silhouettes moving slowly through the fog, their towering antlers and glowing white breath turning the valley floor into a moving, living tapestry. Moose graze beside oxbow pools, dipping their heavy heads into the still water where their reflections ripple like a second world beneath the surface. Aspens flicker with shades of green and gold depending on the time of day, their leaves shimmering like tiny mirrors catching the sunlight. The Snake River flows in sweeping, graceful curves, reflecting the mountains with a clarity so sharp it feels almost unreal, like nature showing off its most polished masterpiece. At certain angles, the reflection is so perfect, it looks as though the sky has fallen directly into the water, blurring the line between earth and heavens. Birds glide across the horizon, their wings slicing silently through the pink morning glow, as if painting strokes of movement across the sky. In the stillness of dawn, the Tetons seem close enough to touch, looming so vividly that the valley feels as though it's holding its breath in reverence. There are stories of old homesteaders who claim to see strange shapes moving across the fields at night, drifting across the moonlit grass in eerie, silent patterns. Some said these shapes look like silhouettes of riders from another time, cowboys or warriors, appearing in the darkness and fading the moment morning light touched them. The historic barns at Mormon Row stand as rustic, weather-worn reminders of those early settlers, their wooden frames holding decades of wind, storms, and untold stories. Photographers from around the world travel here to capture the barn's stark lines beneath the massive shoulders of the mountains, believing no other scene blends human history and raw nature so perfectly. Wildflowers bloom wildly in summer, filling the valley with explosions of purples, yellows, and whites that look like nature's own festival laid across the land. As the day warms, the shadows retreat, and the Tetons glow with bright, sharp edges that cut into the sky like polished stone blades. Cloud formations drift gracefully around the peaks, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow that move across the valley like slow-motion waves. Sunset is pure magic here, the mountains first turning rose gold, then fading into soft lavender before finally dissolving into deep indigo as daylight disappears. The valley slowly quiets, wrapping itself in a calm evening hush that feels tender and timeless. Stars appear one by one until the entire sky becomes a glittering dome, stretching above the valley like a luminous canopy. Nights are cool and peaceful, with only the soft chirping of crickets and the faint rustle of grass breaking the deep silence. A gentle travel tip. Visit Schwabacher Landing near sunrise, when the water turns into a perfect mirror and the Tetons glow with colors you won't find at any other time of day. Jackson Hole has a softness that balances beautifully with the rugged power of the Tetons, creating a harmony that feels both soothing and awe-inspiring. And everywhere you turn, the valley feels ready to give you a moment you'll never forget. One of those rare, quiet memories that stays with you long after you've left. Red Canyon, Wyoming. Red Canyon is the kind of place that hits your senses before your mind can catch up, because the moment you see its blazing red walls rising out of the Wyoming plains, it feels as though the earth has quietly opened a window into another world and invited you to step through. Located south of Lander, the canyon cuts deep through ancient rock layers, revealing colors so intense and saturated they seem to glow from within, as if each cliff were lit by a hidden ember. The rust-colored cliffs were carved over millions of years by relentless erosion, water, wind, and time working together, slowly shaping the canyon into the dramatic, winding corridor that commands attention today. Climate here swings from blistering summer heat that makes the canyon shimmer like a mirage, to crisp autumn evenings when the air cools instantly after sunset and the red walls seem to exhale warmth into the fading light. Sagebrush and junipers scatter across the hillsides, their muted greens and dusty blues contrasting beautifully against the deep reds, maroons, and burnt oranges of the stone, creating a palette that feels handcrafted by nature. Pronghorns sprint across the open ridgelines, moving with startling speed and grace against the steady, unmoving backdrop of the canyon walls, making the entire scene look like a living painting. Hawks circle overhead in slow, powerful loops, their shadows gliding across the stone, like silent omens drifting across an ancient canvas. The vibrant colors come from high iron content in the rock, oxidized through time and pressure, giving the canyon a fiery glow that shifts subtly with every change in sunlight and angle of view. At sunrise, the cliffs burst into hues of crimson, rose, and molten copper, looking almost as if they've been briefly set ablaze by the first touch of daylight. Locals say the canyon has moods, and that on stormy days the rocks turn a darker, almost blood-red shade that makes the entire landscape feel otherworldly, as though the earth is remembering something ancient and fierce. There are old stories from early travelers who claim to see strange flickers of light dancing along the ridges at night, appearing for a moment before dissolving into the darkness. Some even spoke of distant echoes, whispers carried on the wind that didn't sound like any voice they recognized, as if the canyon itself were trying to speak. The road that winds along the canyon's rim offers sweeping views that seem too perfectly framed to be accidental, as if the landscape aligned itself for anyone willing to look. Bighorn sheep sometimes appear on the cliffs, balanced on impossible slopes like guardians carved from muscle, bone, and stone, watching over the canyon's quiet kingdom. The canyon's depth creates pockets of cool air that surprise hikers stepping down from sun-drenched ridges, offering sudden relief in shaded corners that feel hidden from the world. Wildflowers bloom in hidden patches after spring rains, adding unexpected bursts of purple, yellow, and white to the sea of red earth, like tiny celebrations tucked between rocks. The textures of the rocks, grooves, cracks, ridges, and ripples, look like pages torn from a history book written by time itself, telling stories in patterns only nature could design. When the wind sweeps through the canyon, it makes a low, hollow sound that feels ancient and strangely calming, like a voice calling from the deep past. The overlook near the canyon's midpoint gives a full panoramic view where layers of rock stretch out like waves frozen in motion, each ridge a reminder of the landscape's long and restless evolution. Shadows fill the canyon floor in the late afternoon, giving the cliffs an exaggerated height that feels almost intimidating, towering above you like walls of a natural fortress. At dusk, the colors soften into warm terracotta and dusty rose, turning the whole area into a natural cathedral, glowing in the fading light as day slips quietly into night. Nights here are perfectly quiet, broken only by the distant call of an owl or the soft rustle of something small moving through the brush, reminding you that life continues even in the stillness. A useful travel tip: visit just after sunrise or right before sunset, because that's when the canyon's colors ignite into their most breathtaking forms, painting the land with hues you won't find at any other hour. The longer you stand at the overlook, the more you feel like the canyon is expanding around you, pulling you deeper into its silence and its layered history. And by the time you leave, the red dust clings to your memory like a secret you weren't quite meant to discover, one that follows you long after you've stepped away. Hot Springs State Park, Thermopolis, Wyoming. Hot Springs State Park feels like a natural spa painted into the Wyoming landscape, a place where warm mineral water flows across sculpted terraces in soft shades of ivory, peach, and gold, as if the earth itself were creating a never-ending work of art. The entire park moves in slow, graceful motion, steam lifting gently into the cool air, waterfalls spilling smoothly over rounded edges, and sunlight slipping quietly through drifting clouds as though trying not to disturb the tranquility below. The Bighorn River reflects the rising steam like a shimmering veil of silver light, wrapping the scenery in a dreamlike atmosphere that blurs the line between earth and sky. At the heart of the park, water pours continuously over mineral formations that glisten like polished stone, building new layers each day in a process so steady and delicate that you can almost feel time moving with the flow. The teepee fountain appears almost fragile from a distance, its delicate terraces shaped drop by drop over decades, forming a natural sculpture that looks like it could dissolve if touched by a strong breeze. Deer wander along the tree line, stepping cautiously toward patches of warmth rising from the ground. Their movements gentle and measured, as if they too understand the serenity of this place. The steam softens every sound, creating an intimate quiet that makes even footsteps seem like whispers drifting through a landscape half wrapped in mist. Boardwalks wind through the warm haze, offering shifting views that change with every few steps. Shadows stretching, light bending, colors shimmering as the steam thickens or thins. In early mornings, the steam glows pink when the first rays of sunlight hit it, turning the entire park into a living watercolor painting that fades and reforms with every passing moment. Local stories tell of ancient tribes who found healing, clarity, and spiritual grounding in these waters. And even today, the warmth rising from the springs carries a soothing energy that feels deeply rooted in the land's history. Soaking pools offer welcoming heat even on frigid winter days, making cold season visits unexpectedly peaceful and magical, with frost in your hair and warmth surrounding your body. Birds drift through the mist with slow, fluttering movements, their silhouettes softened and blurred, creating the illusion of small spirits gliding silently through the warm air. The swinging bridge provides a perfect vantage point where the river, the drifting steam, and the vibrant mineral formations blend together into one sweeping panorama that looks like a scene lifted from a fantasy film. A helpful travel tip: arrive right after sunrise, when the colors are at their richest, the reflections clearest, and the steam patterns most dramatic, offering a view that many visitors say stays with them for years. Hot Springs State Park is a place where the landscape gently calms your thoughts, slows your breathing, and wraps you in warmth rising softly from the earth itself, reminding you how peaceful nature can be when it simply lets itself be. Mormon Row Historic District, Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming. Mormon Row Historic District feels like a place where time folds back on itself, inviting you to step into a quiet, weather-worn chapter of American history framed perfectly beneath the towering Tetons. as if the mountains themselves are holding open a doorway to the past. The old homesteads stand in wide-open fields, their weathered wood, sagging roofs, and hand-built beams carrying the weight of generations who once staked their hopes, dreams, and survival on this unforgiving frontier. The barns, especially the famous molten barns, rise simply but proudly, their iconic silhouettes etched sharply and permanently against the jagged mountain skyline like signatures on the land. Early settlers came here seeking fertile land, and even though winters were brutal, summers unpredictable, and the work endless, they planted roots with a determination strong enough to shape a community out of raw wilderness. The valley at that time was a patchwork of small farms, each one carved out by sheer willpower, long days of labor, and a belief that the open land could someday provide a better life. Today, the grasses sway softly around these structures, creating a gentle, rhythmic whisper that makes the whole place feel like a living memory, breathing in slow motion. Pronghorn wander past the fences as if checking in on the ghosts of families who once tended crops and animals here beneath the same open sky. Dust rises in the thin spirals whenever the wind sweeps across the plain, curling upward like the land is quietly exhaling remnants of the past. The Tetons loom in the background with an almost protective presence, their rugged peaks adding a dramatic, nearly cinematic backdrop to the simple geometry of the homesteads. When clouds drift low, the barns look dreamlike, half hidden in mist that softens their edges and makes the past feel unusually close, as if it's trying to touch the present. Old irrigation ditches still trace faint, wavering lines across the fields, silent reminders of the settlers' daily struggle to coax life from the stubborn soil in a valley where nothing came easy. Some visitors say they can almost imagine the clatter of a wagon wheel or the faint call of children playing in the distance. Sounds carried on the wind like echoes from another lifetime. The isolation of the homesteads tells you how resilient and fiercely stubborn the early ranching families had to be to survive seasons of deep snow, blistering heat, and endless work. The wooden planks carry frost scars, sun cracks, and the soft gray patina of decades weathered under Wyoming's fierce wind, as if the buildings have absorbed every storm they've endured. During sunrise, the barns glow warm gold, as if they're being lit from within by the memories stitched into their walls, bringing the structures briefly back to life. Wildlife often moves in silence around them. Moose grazing in distant willows, birds fluttering under the eaves, foxes trotting across open ground, adding a gentle pulse to a landscape otherwise frozen in history. The air smells like sage, dust, and clean mountain wind, tying the entire valley together into a sensory experience that feels both grounding and strangely nostalgic. Photographers arrive long before dawn, knowing this small historic district offers one of the most iconic and emotionally stirring views in the entire American West. The contrast between the simple, human-made structures and the raw, overpowering presence of the Tetons creates an emotional pull that's hard to explain, but impossible to ignore. Some claim the land feels unusually still here, as though time slows several beats in this valley, giving you space to breathe and reflect in a way modern life rarely allows. At night, stars flood the sky, and the barns stand like old storytellers waiting patiently for someone to listen, their silhouettes dark against a curtain of constellations. Even abandoned, the building seems stubbornly alive, shaped and scarred by the people who once farmed, prayed, worked, and raised entire families here under the watch of the mountains. A useful travel tip: visit during early morning when the Tetons glow pink and the light catches the barns at just the right angle. This is when Mormon Row feels its most magical and unforgettable. Walking the dirt paths between structures, you can't help but feel connected to a simpler, harder, but deeply meaningful era, as if a small part of you momentarily belongs there too. And when you leave, the image of those lonely, steadfast barns beneath the towering peaks lingers in your mind like a memory that feels partly borrowed and partly your own, refusing to fade. Lamar Valley, Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. Lamar Valley stretches wide and wild across the northeastern corner of Yellowstone, unfolding like a massive green amphitheater where the rhythm of the park's wildlife plays out in real time beneath an endless, open sky that seems to breathe along with the land. Early morning fog drifts slowly across the valley floor, wrapping the rolling hills in a pale silver mist that softens every shape and makes each bison's silhouette look like a creature stepping out of another era, half-formed and ancient. Often called the Serengeti of North America, the valley more than lives up to its name as wolves, elk, pronghorn, and grizzlies roam its immense grasslands with a freedom so raw and powerful, it feels like witnessing a piece of earth untouched by modern time. The winding Lamar River glimmers through the landscape like a quiet silver pathway, drawing animals to its cool banks and giving visitors a natural stage where unforgettable wildlife moments unfold without warning. Herds of bison move across the valley in dark, thundering waves, their low grunts echoing through the cold morning air as if they're carrying the memory of thousands of migrations. Coyotes weave through tall grasses, pausing only to lift their heads toward distant ridgelines, where wolves sometimes appear as tiny gray shadows against the horizon, a reminder that the valley's predators are always watching. When storms roll in, the entire valley transforms. Clouds drop low and heavy, colors deepen into rich greens and blues, and lightning flickers dramatically behind the jagged silhouettes of the surrounding mountains, turning the landscape into its own wild theater. Yellowstone Lake, Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. Yellowstone Lake stands as one of the largest high-elevation lakes in North America, offering a rare combination of scenic beauty, unique geology, and diverse ecology that feels both pristine and profoundly ancient. Located in the southeastern section of Yellowstone National Park, the lake spans more than 136 square miles with over 110 miles of winding shoreline, giving travelers endless angles from which to admire its vast, shimmering surface. Its basin was shaped by both explosive volcanic activity and slow, deliberate glacial carving, creating a remarkably deep and cold freshwater system that holds the memory of two entirely different geological worlds. The lake sits atop part of the Yellowstone caldera, and geothermal vents beneath the surface continue to release heat into the frigid water, creating an underwater environment as dynamic as the landscape above. This combination of icy depths and hidden thermal features creates a rare aquatic ecosystem, one that scientists study with fascination and visitors observe with quiet awe. The lake is a hot spot for native cutthroat trout, whose presence draws anglers from around the world eager to cast lines into these icy, storied waters. Bald eagles, ospreys, and pelicans thrive here, soaring above the lake or skimming its surface thanks to the rich fish population that supports an entire food web. The West Thumb Geyser Basin lies directly along the lake's edge, where colorful hot springs, boiling pools, and steaming vents sit only a few feet from the shore in a surreal blend of water, heat, and color. Steaming vents dot the shoreline, offering one of the most unusual lakefront landscapes in the country, where tranquility and geothermal volatility exist side by side. Water levels fluctuate seasonally, influenced by massive snowmelt from the surrounding mountains, giving the lake subtle shifts in shape and shoreline as the year evolves. In winter, the lake freezes over in a thick, ghostly sheet except for the thermal areas, creating stark contrasts of solid ice and swirling steam that feel almost otherworldly. Ice cracking on the lake produces deep, resonant booms, echoing thuds that ripple across the frozen surface and lodge themselves in memory long after the sound fades. Hiking trails around the lake offer sweeping views of dense forests, delicate wetlands, and wide-open meadows where wildlife frequently makes surprise appearances. The Gull Point Drive is an excellent spot for birdwatching, offering peaceful lakeside scenery and frequent sightings of eagles perched against stunning backdrops. Storms can form quickly across the water, building out of nowhere, so boaters must remain cautious and check conditions often to avoid sudden winds and waves. The water remains astonishingly cold year-round, with summer temperatures barely reaching the upper 40s to low 50s Fahrenheit, a reminder that this is a high mountain lake shaped by ice and altitude. The lake's clarity allows visitors to see far down into the depths on calm days, revealing underwater rock shelves, sunken logs, and shifting patterns of light. Scenic overlooks scattered along the road provide panoramic views that highlight the lake's massive scale and its place within the great volcanic landscape surrounding it. The area supports numerous mammals, including moose browsing in the shallows, bison grazing near the shoreline, and bears wandering through the nearby forests in search of food. Ranger programs frequently take place near the lake, offering insight into its geology, ecosystem, and ongoing scientific research that continues to reveal new discoveries. The volcanic history beneath the lake continues to fascinate scientists, who monitor seismic activity and thermal changes as part of Yellowstone's active geological heartbeat. Boating, kayaking, and fishing remain favorite activities for visitors during summer months, giving them a chance to experience the lake's immense scale from up close. A practical travel tip: mornings usually offer calmer water, clearer reflections, and softer light, making them the ideal time for photography or quiet shoreline exploration. Yellowstone Lake is a perfect example of how volcanic landscapes and mountain ecosystems intersect, creating a place where fire, ice, and water work together to shape something extraordinary. And for travelers exploring Wyoming, it stands as one of those destinations that blends beauty, science, and wilderness into a singular experience, one that few lakes anywhere in the world can match. Jenny Lake, Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming. Jenny Lake lies at the foot of the Teton Range like a vast mirror of liquid silver, so perfectly still in the early morning that it feels less like a body of water and more like a quiet doorway into another world waiting just beneath the surface. Mist drifts slowly across its glassy surface, curling into thin, pale shapes that look almost alive as they slide between the reflections of towering pines, blurring the boundary between air and water. The mountains rise sharply behind it, their dark, jagged silhouettes giving the lake an ancient, watchful presence, one that feels both comforting in its steadiness and faintly unsettling in its sheer silent power. When a gentle breeze sweeps through, the water ripples in delicate overlapping patterns, as if something deep beneath the surface is stirring softly, shifting just enough to remind you the lake is alive. Hikers often say the quiet around the shoreline feels deeper than most places in the Tetons, a dense, almost tangible silence that seems to listen back, holding your footsteps and thoughts with surprising care. And as the sun climbs higher over the ridgelines, the lake slowly shifts from silver to sapphire, revealing its secrets one shade at a time: hidden boulders, drifting shadows, and colors that seem to come from somewhere older than the mountains themselves.